I was a very young age from Mar-a-Lago and entrapped in a world that I didn't understand, and I've been fighting that very world to this day, and I won't stop fighting. I will never be silenced until these people are brought to justice.
That was Jeffrey Epstein's accuser, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, speaking outside a federal courtroom in Manhattan back in 2019, reiterating her allegation that the financier ordered her to have sex with Britain's Prince Andrew when she was just 17 years old. Virginia emerged as a courageous advocate for survivors of sexual violence before her tragic death by suicide in April at the age of 41. In the years leading up to her death, she co-wrote a memoir, which was released this week. In the book, Nobody's Girl, a memoir of surviving abuse and fighting for justice, Virginia delivers an unflinching account of her time with Epstein and his alleged co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted of and is serving time for sex trafficking. Virginia also reveals the abuse she suffered as a child, her daring escape at the age of 19, and the courage that drove her to confront her abusers and fight for other survivors. Her co-author, Amy Wallace, who spent more than 4 years working with Virginia on the book, joins us now. And I think it's so interesting that you say there's a sort of a thing that she does in this book where she asks the viewer to take a minute for themselves because it's so heavy, this story.
We realized as we were writing the book, we spent 4 years together working on it, and that, particularly the first half of the book, it's fairly chronological. There's a lot that she endures, both in her childhood and then also in the clutches of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
And it was important that it come out, but we have a device where she turns directly to the reader and says, stick with me here. I'll help you.
Yeah. What was the process like working with her, and having worked with her and written this book together with her? What do you think people still don't understand about her story?
Well, I think people are clamoring for the Epstein files right now, obviously, because they're tired of a system that Virginia writes about really eloquently in this book, which allows rich men to abuse generally poorer children and not pay any price for it. So just sort of that's the headline of in part what this book is about. And she had worked her whole adult life, almost entirely her adult life, to draw attention to that and to say that's wrong, and that she was the first person to come out publicly and name her own name as a victim. Other people had come forward, but privately, and that they are just as brave. But Virginia put her name on it, and at great cost to herself. There were death threats. Her house was broken into. Her children were taken. People took pictures of her children, threatened them. There was clearly a price to be paid, and she knew that, and she kept going, which is why I think that she's a heroic figure.
Amy, one of the things that in this book, and it is, this book, it just breaks your heart. It's just so devastating, and that her story is devastating. But she has a daughter, and she knows that she has to fight. That she has to fight to bring down these men, because she knows that otherwise the system continues. Talk us through what that was like to work with someone who was so, had been subjected to so much, but was still so driven.
Yeah, there's a key moment in the book where she has 3 children, but the last child is a daughter. And when she has a daughter, she suddenly realizes, I now have a child that is going to grow up into this world who is female.
Yeah. And
I need to stand up and do something. At that point, she's been living in Australia. Nobody knows where she is. She has a different last name. She's no longer in touch. She thinks Ghislaine and Jeffrey Epstein don't know where she is. She's living a kind of peaceful life. And she decides to step out of that peaceful life because she feels like, I need to make the world a better place, not just for my daughter, but for other daughters.
So tell us what she was like as you did this book. Because as Molly said, it is such a tough tough read. And obviously she's motivated by hoping to make this world a better place. But by talking about her own suffering, like almost hard to describe suffering, how did you see her during all of this? Someone who, of course, was battling a lot of demons and eventually took her own life.
Yeah, I mean, what we really try to do in the book, obviously, over the past several days, there's been a lot of attention to the most salacious and awful horrors in the book. But the book was intended to be more than a catalog of horrors, more than a list. It was designed to show a girl that had suffered horrible things, but then had escaped from those horrible people, but then had become a mom, and there are whole sections about her becoming a mom, and then deciding to be an advocate, and it's sort of a woman in full. And the reason that was really important is anyone who knew Virginia, she was amazing in her open-heartedness, in her sort of quest for willingness to put herself forward for what she thought was right. And I wanted the book to really communicate that and not just be this person did that, this person did this. It was to show a kind of an inspirational tale, even with the tragic way that it ended. And I wish that she was sitting here in the seat instead of me. She should be. It's her book. But even with that tragic end, there is inspiration in this book because she shows us that we all need to stand up on some of these issues, not just victims, not just women and men need to speak out and say, our culture is screwed up, fetishization of young women is wrong.
Yeah.
So I think there's a theme that runs underneath that is truly her spirit.
I just want to, we've talked a lot about her, the hero that this woman is. But for those who are maybe getting bored with the news cycle and are like, whatever, Jeffrey Epstein documents, we don't need to see it. I want to just point out some of the things that are revealed in this book. Ghislaine Maxwell recruited her. This is in Palm Beach. She was ushered into a room and asked to give naked Jeffrey Epstein a massage. Then they undressed her, and Epstein and Maxwell both engaged in sexual relationship with her. She's how old?
She is at that point 16.
16 years old. In her mind, she wrote, I believed I would die a sex slave. Things got so bad. And she says that the abuse that she endured, it was worse psychologically than it was even physically. This is a girl who's being repeatedly raped and presented to men, including Prince Andrew. We all know that story, but I mean, just the presentation to a prince and everyone, him being asked to guess her age and him saying, you're younger than my daughters. This is her story. And we know what's going on with Prince Andrew right now, which tells, I think you can deduce that there may be some truth to the situation with Prince Andrew. Virginia writes that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein wanted her to carry their baby, and the condition would be that she would have to sign away this child to them. And that was her final straw. And I haven't even begun to name all the things that happened to her. But this is one sick situation. And those two people, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, they've been convicted for some really sick stuff. And it is worth reading this book if you think you are bored of the news around Jeffrey Epstein. Because there are many offenders out there, many, who are scot-free while these girls are tortured and ruined for the rest of their lives. They will never be the same.
Yeah, I mean, you make the perfect point, which is this did not die with Jeffrey Epstein in his jail cell, however that occurred. This is alive and well in our culture generally, and Virginia was trafficked to at least a dozen, if not dozens of men. So those guys are walking around. If they're alive, they're walking around, and they have never been held to account. She has accused them to the FBI. Those names, you know, there's all this clamoring for the client list, the client list.
Yeah. Yeah, she makes no mention of the president. But if anybody in Congress wants to cover this up, doesn't want to see and reveal what happened here and take action, check out this book.
Yeah.
And then look in the mirror. Really, what's your job?
Yeah, people need to do their job. Law enforcement needs to do their job. Department of Justice needs to do its job. The files exist. The burden should not be on these women to repeat and repeat and repeat. They've already said what happened, and their testimony is in those files. Arguably, perhaps, probably, there are also videotapes in those files. You know, they raided his Manhattan townhouse. You know, the whole idea behind having cameras in every room in that house was to get men on tape in compromising positions and use it for whatever Epstein wanted. So theoretically, you can see who those people are if there are videotapes. Now, I don't have any special knowledge of what's inside the Epstein files, as we are now calling them. They're voluminous. But yeah, that's really what we're talking about here. It's not just about Prince Andrew, and it's not just about Ghislaine and Jeffrey Epstein, although I will point out that this narrative about Ghislaine has sort of morphed into the fact that she was sort of a receptionist that just kept the date book on who was coming in and out.
No.
She not only procured, which is evil in itself, but she sexually degraded and abused these girls herself. She said, come over here and sexually service me. She hurt them during sex. She used sex toys to inflict pain on them sexually. So this woman is a monster. And the idea that anybody is even sort of bandying about this idea that we're going to pardon her, maybe if it occurs to us, we might do it, is an abomination. I mean, she's convicted in a court of law.
What is justice?
I wish Speaker Johnson would swear in the Congresswoman.
So that we could get...
that would be a start.
What would be justice?
Justice is for the people who do these things to be held to account. And the way you start to do that is you start to really interrogate and do your job as law enforcement and go in there and follow up on what these young women and girls have told you over many years. You know, Virginia comes forward publicly for the first time in 2011. She'd come forward before that privately.
Yeah.
So had many other women, brave women, Annie Farmer, Maria Farmer, many women. So all that stuff is theoretically sitting in a file cabinet, or 12 of them, and it's there, it's waiting. Remember, Trump campaigned on the plank because he knew it was important to his base that those Epstein files should be released. And it's not a partisan issue.
Yeah.
It's a human issue.
Is there a list?
Most people are horrified.
Is there a list?
I mean, I think that the list is a kind of weird term of art.
Yeah.
I don't think that Jeffrey Epstein sat down with a beautiful fountain pen and thought, it would be amazing to write a little list. The list was in his head.
Yeah.
But where the list has come from, or in terms of knowing who the men are, is from the victims who have been... There's a scene in the book of Department of Justice officials thanking those women and saying, thank you for your help. Please continue to give it to us. It's been so valuable. That's, of course, in a private room, under a different administration. But that's happening. You know, these women have done their duty, and they should be able to step back, take care of themselves. Trauma victims
move on.
Yeah, move on. That's
they need the validation.
You can't heal if you can't ever stop talking about it.
Nobody's Girl, a memoir of surviving abuse and fighting for justice, is on sale now. Co-author Amy Wallace, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
You've done.